Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our session on Xero tips and tricks to streamline your bookkeeping. So what I'll get into first of all is just a bit of background about myself. So my name's Stephen Gasolki, and I'm a client manager at a Brisbane-based accounting firm called O'Connell's OBM. I've been here for around 10 years now, and my focus area at the moment has been around streamlining client systems and processes, and in particular the Xero area. So been doing that for the last couple of years now, and always keen to help as many clients as we can do their bookkeeping as efficiently as possible. So a bit of housekeeping to begin with. So as we go along, if you've got any questions, feel free to chuck them in the Q&A box that you'll see, which looks similar to the one on the screen now. What I can then do is capture them at the end and answer all the questions. So the session today, what I'll do is I've got a couple of different areas that we can cover off on, but I will take some votes around what's the most hot topic areas, and then we can target and prioritize them, and then have some of the question and answers at the end of it as well. So what I'll do is I'll start a couple of polls now, just so we can work out how everyone is feeling about Xero at the moment, and then also what your biggest time consumers are as well. So I'll just launch our first poll now. So this first poll is just trying to gauge which areas cause you the greatest frustration within Xero, or the greatest amount of time. So is it the bank reconciliation, payroll, invoicing, files and storage? You may not know anything about it, or is there something else? So if you can answer some of those polls for us, this will then determine what order we're going to do some of these tips and tricks. So I'll just give you about 15 more seconds on that. Okay, so a couple more votes still to come in. All right, cool. So I'll end the polling there. In terms of then how that went, so I'll show you the results on that so we can see if you've got common frustrations. So the main areas we've got identified here is invoicing. What we'll then have a look at is a quick look at some payroll aspects and how we can streamline that. The third, we'll talk about the bank reconciliation area, and then last of all, we'll just briefly touch on the files and storage. Okay, so the other poll we were just going to do with you is just overall, how do you rate Xero at the moment, and do you think you're getting the best out of it? So rating 1 to 10, so 10 would be that yes, you feel like you're doing it very efficiently, 1 being no, you're not efficient at all and you need some assistance. How would you feel you're going? So results coming in at the moment, fair few people around 7 and 8. All right, I'll end the polling there and share those with you as well. So as you can see on these results, by the sound of it, a majority of you are above 5, which is great. So what we really want to do is now, how do we push that number up? So how do we get it closer to being a 10 to get you up there and achieving the most out of the software? So based on the areas that we've mentioned, what we can do now is I'll jump into Xero and just open up some of the payroll tips and tricks that I've got. Invoicing, reconciliation, and also the file storage. So first of all, what we'll start with was the most popular, and that's the invoicing and bills area. So as we're doing these areas, maybe put your questions in and we can see how we go with answering them as well. So some of the main tips and tricks that I've been using or talking to clients about in the invoicing area is really how to locate invoices initially, or what's the easiest way to identify them. So I'll show you how I would go about finding some of these invoices. So either way, you can either click in the invoices owed to you, an awaiting payment, or wherever. So we just want to really get into the invoicing area. So I'll click into the invoices owed to you. What you'll see then is you can click on see all. So when I come into here, I then use this search functionality on the right-hand side here. So by using this search functionality, you can search anything and everything you want. So you may want to search an invoice number, a client name, even amounts and those kind of things as well. So we may want to pull up, let's say our client has Hamilton in it, to pull up all our invoices that we've done for them. So as you can see here, you've got all your invoices listed for them. Pretty easy to see, and out to the right-hand side, you can see the status as well. So these guys look pretty good. They've paid all our invoices except for one that's in draft. And you can also see this status out to the right-hand side, which is showing that they all have been sent electronically through Xero as well. In terms of other aspects within invoicing and bills functionality, the invoice reminders would be something that I would be suggesting everyone has a detailed look at, on the basis of one of the biggest issues for small business is cash flow. So invoice reminders, again, I'll show you how you can find that from the dashboard. So if we jump back to your dashboard, click into invoices owed to you, see all, and invoice reminders. What this here is, it's a way to automate your debtor follow-up to get most of it done by a computer in the initial instance. And then if we still have the clients who are bad debtors, that's when we can get the human interaction happening. So what you can set up here is you can decide, okay, at 7 days past the due date, what kind of email or follow-up do we want to send to our client? At the 14 day, what type do we want to do? And at the 21 day, and then also other ones as well. What you can do, you can pick and choose which clients this applies to and which it doesn't. And then Xero can automatically send a reminder email to the client as well. So this can help with, I guess, reducing the amount of time that you spend following up clients for your cash when they owe you as well. In terms of some other aspects within the invoicing and bills area, back to the dashboard. We've seen a number of clients use the copying invoices as well. So you could go into an invoice. So let's say we wanted to do exactly this same invoice. You can click on this and then click copy to, and you can create a new invoice. So we could say we want to do exactly what we did on this Bayside Club invoice for this Hamilton Smith client. What this will then do is copy the invoice with all the data pre-filled on it. Then we do a quick check on it, and once we're happy with it, we can press approve. In terms of other aspects for invoicing and billings functions, I'll open it up to the floor. Does anyone have any questions or queries or things that they feel they're doing inefficiently in the invoicing and billing area before we move on from that to our second hot area? So again, use that Q&A box to put in any questions or queries that you may have. So I'll give you a bit of time if you've got any there or thoughts or questions. Yep, so first question we've got here is about automating sending of statements. So to my knowledge, the automating sending of statements does require a human interaction. So a human press on the statement button. What I will do, is I can confirm the auto sending of statements for you, Kathy, and then I can touch base with you on that one as well. So in terms of sending statements, what there is, and if people haven't seen that, I'll just open up the statements area here. You may want to press send statements. What you still need to do, is outline which ones you want to send and then press email on them or update. Okay, so email or print to do that. If we try and do that, see, as you can see here, there is a human interaction that needs to be done. So you need to tick which ones you do and don't want to send. Otherwise, Xero doesn't know who you do and don't want to send it to. But yeah, I'll have a look further for you, Kathy, and then touch base if I do spot anything on that one. Yeah, correct, Kerry. So the dashboard, so the question was, so is the dashboard just a shortcut to the other areas? Pretty much, yeah, that's how I view the dashboard. I view the dashboard as being pretty much your home base, so to speak. From your dashboard, you can jump into your invoices, your bills, or your bank reconciliations. You can either get to them from the dashboard, or you can go, for example, if you wanted to get to the bank accounts, you can go account to bank accounts. If you wanted to get to the invoices, account sales, bills, accounts, purchases, and those kind of things as well. So I just use the dashboard and clicking on the dashboard button to get me back to this page, rather than using the back buttons in your internet browser. So don't use back buttons in the browser. If you want to go back, go to your dashboard and navigate back to where you need to go. Any other questions? Okay, cool. All right, well, we'll move on from invoicing and billing functionalities. In terms of payroll, that's a very wide topic on areas that we could look at there. So maybe the areas that we could talk about with the payroll functionalities is how you can streamline the whole payroll process, and then we can have some questions from there as well. So in terms of payroll, what I would be suggesting is that everyone has their payroll set up so that automatic superannuation is paid from within Xero. So what this means is when you come at the end of quarter to pay your superannuation, what you'll do is you'll jump into Xero, go to the superannuation section, tick which ones you want to do a payment. From there, it'll go to a website within Xero, which will ask for a unique code. That unique code, it'll get sent via text message to the payroll administrator that you identify when you're setting it up. And what that will then do is it'll automatically go and direct debit the superannuation from your nominated bank account out to all your employees. So you don't have to go and rekey into all your clearinghouses anymore, or the ATO clearinghouse. It's all built within Xero to allow you to do that. The other function that is very helpful would be when processing a pay run, making sure that you have all your employees set up with their templates on it. So an example on this demo file here is just in a draft pay run. What you can do on this is these 3 employees, we've identified that they're all salary and wage. So pretty much if your employees don't come up with all their information completed and you have to always type something in every pay run, if they're on a salary, there needs to be some work done around getting their individual pay templates set up. Because what it should be is if everyone was on salary, nice and simple, start the new pay run, press post pay run on this. Yes, we want to post that pay run. And then all our pay run is really done. From there, we email all our pay slips to our employees. So within Xero, there's the automatic email, or there's a button to press email pay slips. There's the button to press to send the annual payment summaries at year end as well. So pretty much everything should be going out via email if you're on Xero. The other function that's sitting here that you may or may not have been aware of is the download ABA function. So if you've got 20 employees, and rather than having to go into your online banking, enter 20 employees' information in and process the payments, what you can do is press download ABA file. What that then does is creates a file that when you go into your online banking, you can then upload this ABA file with all the employees' BSBs, account numbers, and the net amount to pay them, for you then to import automatically into your online banking, which will then be for you to check and then press a button for that one to go straight through. Another function that is coming out will be that Xero will be single touch payroll compliant. So they're in the process of building all that at the moment, and they've made a comment that that will be all compliant, and that kicks in from 1 July based on the number of employees that you have. So that's the benefit of being on a software like Xero. They're always building it for the latest legislation that's coming into play. In terms of other aspects for payroll that you could do, so I would also be making sure that you have all your leave accruals set up correctly from the day 1 that an employee starts. So that's annual leave, personal leave, long service leave, so that behind the scenes, it can track all your leave accruals. So it can identify how much long service leave people are accruing, how much annual leave everyone is accruing as well. The added effect that you can do off the back of the payroll functions is the employees can actually have an app that they have. So if you've got an employee that gets paid by the hour, or they want to lodge a leave accrual, a leave request, what they can do is they can jump into the app. From there, they can actually then process a leave request to the payroll administrator. And what that means then is that you can then approve it rather than getting pieces of papers, emails, all that kind of thing as well. So what you'll see is if you're the payroll admin and they've got the app, if you go Payroll Overview, you'll see our main screen here where it has all the information for leave to approve. So for example, on this James LeBron here, that's come through as a request. So if we were happy with that, we could click on it and go, yep, you deserve a break, we'll approve that. But Oliver Gray, we don't reckon you deserve a break. So we're going to reject that as well. So this is then how you can maintain all your employees' leave accruals as well within Xero. So I'll open up to the floor for payroll now. Any questions or queries? I've got a couple here from Kathy. So can you reimburse expenses through payroll? Yes, I believe you can. In terms of how, I can come back to you on that. I haven't processed too much payroll myself. Mostly that's done by internal bookkeepers and the like. But what I can do is I'll locate a help article for you on that and flick that through. So you can get that reimbursements happening. Does anyone else have any queries or questions on payroll or things that they feel is taking way too long using payroll and it should be done more efficiently? Okay, cool. So we've got a couple of questions coming in now for payroll. Okay, so first one we've got is, where do we record sick days? So Robin, just to clarify, is that for people who get paid sick leave, or is this for people who aren't getting paid sick leave? If they are getting paid sick leave, what you would do is you would come into payroll leave. From here, you can then put in a leave request. So you can click on the employee, process that as personal leave, enter in what days they were sick. It will then calculate, okay, how many hours that is, and then you can press save. So the first point is you need to put it into the leave area within Xero. So then when you come to do the payroll, it will then have it split up to say this is a sick leave component, an annual leave component, and an ordinary hours component. So that's how you would record sick days within Xero. Yeah, so Sam, your question on any tips for monthly salary payments? Currently, we need to change the monthly hourly rate based on number of hours. So Sam, can you just confirm with that one, is this on someone who gets paid the same amount every month? And if it is, I would suggest doing this. So payroll employees, click into your employee. When you're looking at it, okay, yeah. So what you can do is they've got a pay template. When you're looking at this, you should be able to add an earnings line and do it based not on enter rate, but do it on annual salary, Sam. So if you have ordinary hours on an annual salary, what it does, it gives you the amount here. So you could say, let's say I get paid 120,000 for ease of numbers. So let's drop that. What it would then do by doing this, it would give you your equal, like your same amount of payment every month. So your 12 equal monthly payments. So I think that answers that question. Okay, so Kim's question about with super payments, where does the code come from? So that's probably going to be in payroll. There's two main areas. There's settings and payroll settings, which is your overriding firm-wide settings, I guess you would call it. In here, the codes that show for them, every super fund has a unique code. So within superannuation, you can see there's this SPIN number that is used. So that number there, if you go to add a super fund, and if we just say REST industry super fund, it has its unique USI. So that's how you would get it. So you initially add the superannuation fund here, and then you go and add that specific super fund to the employee. If you have an employer number for that super fund, you would enter that in here as well. And then when you come over to setting up the employees and doing their employee specific requirements, when we go to them, if we go to employment, you can add a super fund membership. In here, you select from one of the ones that we just did. So you could pick Hester or OnePath, and then you'd put their employee number in there as well. So I think that answers the question. In terms of where do you set up an employee, that's Kerry's question. So if you're just starting out on a file and you need to add 20 employees, there is a quick way to do it via a spreadsheet. If so, hit me up and I can give you some details on that. If you need to add a new employee, so it would be payroll employees, add employee. And then from here, you then go and complete all their details, press save. And then once they're added, what you'll then be able to do is go and complete all their individual tabs as well. In terms of a quick tip while we're talking about that question, using the Help Center within Xero, so the question mark up in the top right, click on Help Center. From here, what we can then do is then type set up employee, add an employee. We can go to the first result, and it will give you, again, videos, screenshots, you name it, it'll give it to you there. So it'll give you all the detail on how you have to add them in, how you can file a tax declaration number with the ATO as well, within Xero too. Cool. Okay, so that answers all the payroll questions. We'll just keep moving into the next area. Kathy, you had a question here. What's the projects tab? So the projects tab it does sometimes come down to what subscription you're on, but projects is really based on where you can enter time and cost into Xero and track the project financial performance. So you may want to track how a project is going. It's a relatively new feature within Xero. So it's only been around probably for, I think, about 6 months, if that. So my comment on that would be it's probably still ironing out some of the bugs. So if you're interested, hit me up. But yeah, we can go from there. All right, so that's payroll. Moving into an area that I'm pretty passionate about and I can see a lot of benefit with a large number of clients that we deal with is the reconciliation area within Xero. So apologies for the people who sat in on the earlier webinar today on new to Xero, but there may be a bit of double up, but either way, I still think it's of relevance here. So what I'll do is I'll just give you a quick couple of tips on using Xero. Obviously we know, or you probably know, being experienced users, about the green means good. So yep, that invoice matches to this payment in the bank account. So we're okay with that. This payment here matches to a payment that we have made for our rent. So we're okay with that. So everything matches. On this screen as well, I would be pushing very hardly to go and set up some bank rules within Xero. So for example, I'll just jump back and explain it for the bank rules. So main thing with bank rules is everyone's creatures of habit. You'll shop at the same place, spend in the same way, and it will probably have to be coded in the same way as well. The main reason why I'm pushing for everyone to get bank rules set up and all automated is at one point, Xero is going to get to be smart enough where this whole bank reconciliation process will be done by a computer. So behind the scenes, they're using artificial intelligence to actually work out how you code your transactions to then be able to give you suggestions and actually code it based on how you've done it in the past. So if you set up rules now, it's going to mean at some point when Xero flick the switch, your file is going to be nice and clean. And you're probably going to get hours back in your day to go and then do something more fun, because Xero will have automated a large number of things for you. So to set up bank rules, there's a couple that you can do. The first one, we may want to put this Cooper Street Bakery to entertainment. So click on Create Rule. Set your unique identifier here. We may want to say it's for bakery and it's entertainment. And we'll just say from the reference, and then we can say entertainment here. For everyone who's on the webinar today, I'll be sending through a bank rule cheat sheet or handout that I've built, which talks about what to enter in these different buckets and how it can help as well. So if we press save on that, we're going to hopefully now, every time we see Cooper Street Bakery come up, we're going to then use, it's going to code it to entertainment, and we can press OK on that. Main function that I'll show you as well is the cash coding screen. Cash coding screen is very easy to use. If you go away or there's a large number of transactions, you can click on cash coding screen. You can filter on date. By clicking on the heading, you can change the payee. You can change the reference and the like. What I can see here, buddy, is I've got some rules set up that are in place. So office expenses and entertainment. With them, I may be happy with them. So I could either tick those ones, which is a slow process, or I could skim down that, make sure I'm happy with everyone that has an account and tax rate, and then press save and reconcile all. So that will then reconcile those 4 transactions there as well. By using this cash coding screen, I could easily identify where we should go and set up a rule. So see our central city parking is coming up with 5 transactions. I reckon we should go set up a bank rule for that and code that to travel. So out to the right-hand side, there's these little grey arrows which have multiple options that you can do. So you can actually create a bank rule from this screen. So you can filter on payee, identify where it's always using the same thing or the same wording or a common identifier, click Create Bank Rule, use the unique identifier, call that travel, go travel national, pick it up from the reference, and then travel, and press save. What this should now do is on our cash coding screen, if we again filter by our payee, bang, those 5 are all coded there for us as well. So if we're happy with that, we can press save and reconcile all. So it's a quick way for us to use the cash coding screen. Alternatively, if you wanted to code these these transactions to one account, you can tick them, put it as cleaning, click out of the box, and then press save and reconcile selected, which will then get them off that list for you as well. So it's a nice quick way to use coding, but again, I'd be pushing 1, get your bank rules set up, because if you go away on holidays, come back to 100 transactions, and you've got your bank rules set up, a lot of those transactions could already have an account listed next to them. Quick skim of the list, make sure you're happy with it, and then push forward with that as well. One of the other items on bank coding would be how to search for invoices or bills. So for example, I know this 4,500 Smart Agency, we paid 2 bills in one go. What you can do with that, you can click on Find and Match. In here, you can search by amount or reference. So we could click in here and search Smart and press enter. It'll come up with our 2 shortlist. Yep, tick, tick. Okay, happy with that. And then press OK. See how it's all gone green? That means it's all okay. In terms of then, if you wanted to use the Find and Match feature for an invoice, so you may want to say that this invoice of $1,000 was our payment where we got paid for these 2, and they shortchange us by $90, but we don't actually want to chase them for the $90. So this is what you could use for your $2 discrepancies that you don't want to chase. If that's the case, click on Bank Fee, not Minor Adjustment. What you can then do is you can go Client A, under Payment. You can then just code this to your sales, and what it will do is it'll deal with the GST correctly for you. You can put in your $90 here. Oh. it all goes green, and then you can press reconcile. One of the other rules that I'll explain is, and it's a new feature that is in Xero, click on the little arrow next to create rule. On there, you can click on create transfer rule. So this can be when you're transferring between your 2 bank accounts or your 3 bank accounts that are on Xero. So you may want to click on this and go create transfer rule. You can then say, okay, whenever it has that in the description, code it to it as a transfer rule with your bank savings account, and then that would save it as well. So the transfer rule is a new feature, and I would suggest that because we do see a lot of issues with clients where they're making errors with the transfer options within Xero. In order to correct issues with when you've done coding, so let's say you've coded something and it's wrong, if you've coded it, what it does, it goes from the reconcile screen to your account transactions tab. On the account transactions tab, you've got a search option. So again, you can search for anything and everything. Once you find your transactions, I would just tick it and press remove and redo. By doing remove and redo, you'll see here it's got reconcile 10. When we press remove and redo, this will now go to reconcile 11 items. What this does is it keeps it clean. You can then come over here and code it as normally as you would with that transaction. The last thing in the reconcile area before I get to some of the questions that have come through is just making sure that you check your statement balance on Xero with your online banking, and do that if you're doing coding fortnightly or weekly. My suggestion would be checking this balance to your online banking. So for example, with this Bank West account, it's saying it's got 4,200 in the bank as the bank balance at the 29th of May. So I would log into my Bank West account, check on the 29th of May, does it equal that amount? If so, yes, that's fine. What that means is we can just work out if there's a bank feed issue, if there's transactions not coming through or duplicate transactions. We can use this to identify a period where it's gone astray and help to fix that. If you don't do it regularly, it means that we've got to look over a period of when we actually last had a confirmed date or a confirmed balance, which can mean we're pushing out to 12 months or longer, which can be a pretty costly exercise if we need to fix that. So if you stay on top of your bank account balance periodically, monthly, and if there is an issue, then we've only got to go back for 4 weeks and work out where the issue is. It can keep that cost down for assisting with that. All right, so opening to the floor on the question. So, yep, first question is, are you able to find a list of the rules you've set up? Yes, you are. So if you go to Accounts, Bank Accounts, on the bank accounts, you can then see bank rules. When you set up rules in Xero, there's three different types, sorry. Spend money rules, receive money rules, transfer rules. From here, you could click into one. So the rule that I set up just before for our Cooper Street Bakery, we could click into this, work out why it isn't working, and then adjust it accordingly here. Alternatively, you could use it as a reference point for creating any new rules going forward. D's question, I don't have the cash coding button. Does it depend on my subscription? Yes, it would depend on your subscription. D, if you can just tell me what your subscription is, what level it is, I can then advise on that as well. Kerry's question, if you have a pay, for example, Australia Post, with both stationery and postage, you would have to split them manually? No, you wouldn't. So in terms of that, Kerry, my suggestion would be either way. I'm not concerned as your accountant. I wouldn't be concerned if it's gone into stationery or postage. As long as it's hit one or the other, I'd be happy with that. Because the whole theory there is it's hitting your profit and loss. So as long as it's hitting your profit and loss, it's going to the right place. In terms of if you wanted to split it out and it was always the same splitter, there is a function with the create rules. I'll show you that, where you can automatically set that up. So let's say you wanted to split, let's just assume this is for our telephone expense. We may want to say that the first 50% is to go to our expense, but the next 50% is to go to our drawings account. So what it would mean is every time that it picks up this reference point, it would then go and split it 50-50 between these two accounts. That's one way you can set it up. You can also do it based on allocating a fixed amount and then the balance to go to an account. All those instructions for bank rules will be in the bank rule handout that I'll send out to you. In terms of then, if you want it to be specific, which if it said $10 and $2 or what it said on each individual Australia Post item, yes, you would have to split it out manually. Just knowing, but is when you do go to Australia Post, Xero does have some suggestions in it. So if you split out this item, you could go add details and put in your 2 lines here. If you do that regularly enough, Xero will be smart enough to say, when it comes up as Australia Post, you always split it out to these 2 accounts. So it will say show 2 lines, I think it would show here as a blue item. If you clicked on that, it would have it pre-filled with stationery and postage sitting there. And then you could just key in the numbers. So that's a bit of a quick tip. Cool. Any other questions in regards to reconciliations? Kerry, you've got a question here under the tab accounts. Yep, there's an expense claims. So expense claims can be used for employees when they want to do a reimbursement for you. So for example, if I went and took a client out for lunch, so let's say I take Kathy out for lunch, what that means is I may take a picture of my receipt, put it into this expense claims, and then get reimbursed from work out of that. So that's how that one would be worked. Okay, so that's 3 out of our 4 main areas. The last one I wanted to show was the files functionality within Xero. So with files functionality within Xero, I'm not too sure if anyone is using that or not, but what you can do is every time, so for example, this transaction, add details, every time you see this symbol, like a piece of paper, you can actually add a file to a transaction. So for example, you may want to click on here, go and upload a picture or a document that you've got, attach it to this, and what it can do is it can act as like your electronic storage for all your records. So all those paper receipts, all those warranty claims, all that documentation, if you scan it, take a picture of it, attach it to the transaction, it could then be stored within Xero. So this symbol is at multiple data entry points that you have. Some of the other cool functionalities that you can do with this files functionality is top right hand corner, you'll have this file symbol. If you click on that file symbol, multiple options that you can do here to getting files into Xero. You've got every Xero file has a unique email address. So you could email yourself, email to this address, any PDFs or documents that you've got. Once you do that, it would show in your inbox, and then you'd be able to potentially create an invoice or a bill that's from there as well. Alternatively, what you could do is you could use, if you've got a webcam, you can do a cheat approach. So we'll try this, and bear with me for this picture because I'm starting to get sick, so it probably won't look the best. So if you've got a webcam, you can hold up a piece of paper to it, take your picture, upload that picture, and then that can be a document to then, from here, we could then go and either create a new bill or an expense claim or a sales invoice. So let's say we want to go and create a bill from here. We could click bill. What it will then do is have our picture on our left-hand side, our data entry screen on our right-hand side, and our attachment here, which would then enable us to always see that come up. So this here would always link to that picture, so we can see that as well. So that's how you could use the phone functionality. The other alternative that I've used for like a Xero personal file is using the Xero app. So within the app, you'll have options to upload receipts. So with that, again, take a picture on my phone, upload it into the Xero file, link it to a transaction, and then I've got all those records there as well. All right, so a couple of questions coming through. Does anyone have any, actually, before I move on to those questions, does anyone have any questions on using the files functionality within Xero? Yep, I've got a suggestion here that someone uses Receipt Bank and it's great. And yeah, we use that internally as well for our office. So yeah, if you do handle a lot of receipts, I would suggest having a look at Receipt Bank or reaching out to us on that. Another question about uploading receipts. Can an employee upload receipts? They can. If you've got Receipt Bank, but I'd be pushing them to use Receipt Bank for that. In terms of all different users as well, you can pick and choose what type of access rights people have. So we'd just be having a look at the user access to see who we wanted to give what to. Another question here. Yeah, so Kerry's question, also with bank accounts equaling Xero, I've been told that it doesn't come through every day and misses days. In terms of that comment, I think what you'll find is, and I'll just explain how bank feeds work, the link between Xero and banking. So I go and swipe my card tonight at Woolworths. What will happen is it'll go through to my bank, to COA then. What they will do is, once they approve that transaction, they'll give it a unique identifier or a unique code. Once it gets that unique code, Xero then looks at your bank account and says, okay, based on that unique code, I do or don't have that transaction. If it doesn't have that unique code, it picks up that transaction and brings it through into Xero. So based on that, the comment that, yes, it doesn't come through every day is correct, because what it has to do is it needs to be approved by the bank. Xero then needs to talk to that to then bring it in. So usually there's maybe a 1 or 2 day delay on that. If there is a delay, you'll notice that on this, what I look at this here and how I would view it is this bank account, it's only got transactions to the end of May 29th, okay? So anything I've pay waived today, it hasn't come through. It will probably come through tomorrow because it may or may not get fed through by the bank and by Xero overnight. In terms of if it misses days, it's pretty rare these days. If it does miss days, that's where the checking of bank balance does help to identify that. In terms of how feeds are now, feeds are a lot better than what they were 4 or 5 years ago, and I think they're only going to get better. With also the banks opening up their banking systems to everything, what you'll probably find is in the future, if you pay wave, that transaction may come through closer and closer to when you've done it. So at the moment, it's maybe a 1 or 2 day delay. If you're then looking at in the future, it may only be a couple of hours. So once technology gets to that point, that'll be beneficial. The other thing that I'll flag is quick Google search. And this probably comes back to some of those questions about missing days or bank feed issues. So if you've ever got issues with Xero, first thing I would do is go to Google Xero status. What this will do is it'll give you the status on how Xero is going. So we can see here, there's no issues at the moment with Xero's functionality. The other search I would do, if you think there's an issue with your bank feed, go Xero bank feed status and go to this first blog here. So currently at the moment, I know of a client who had an issue with ANZ feeds recently. So scroll down to Australia. So this ANZ feed here. So as you can see, that issue has now been resolved because it's now been put to this recent disruptions. If it was an outstanding issue, it would be sitting in this current disruptions. So this is how you can first check on here to see if there's an issue. And if there is, Xero is aware of it. If not, reach out to us and we can help with that. Last question I've got here is, what are the pros and cons for using Create Rule versus split payments towards an outstanding bill? E.g. insurance is being paid in monthly installments. Yep, so the main benefits here would be whether or not, how you want your reporting to work. So do you want your insurance to show up every month, or do you want it to just show up in one hit? In terms of then the creating rules versus the splitting the payments towards an outstanding bill, I think by having a bill created for it and then splitting out a payment towards it, you are creating potentially more work for yourself, because you have to, one, create the bill, two, come into the bank account, find the bill, split the bill, attach it to that bill. The suggestion would be here is just gauging whether there's any benefit in you having a bill or not. So the benefit there, if I'm thinking out loud from a reporting point of view, would be if I want our insurance to show in May, show the $10,000. So I want the expense to be booked. You would want to do a bill, and then you'd want the payments to come off that over the coming periods. Hopefully that answers the question, Katrina. If not, give me a bell and I can talk through that more with you. Cool. All right. So any further questions before we look to wrap up this webinar for today? I'll just leave, I'll stay on the webinar for a bit. If you've got any questions, feel free to reach out. In terms of, I guess, how we can help you with your Xero file and even some training aspects, I'd highly recommend considering touching base with us and getting one of our Xero certified advisors to perform a Xero file review and training session with you. So based on all our experience in dealing with probably over 160, if not more, client files, we've identified a fair few areas that clients miss or get caught up in the day-to-day of the bookkeeping, and there could be areas to streamline for. So as part of this, what we do is we jump into your file, review what you're doing, see if we can spot anything, and then what we would look to do is have a 1-hour online training session with you to mop up any skill gaps or areas, and also outline any tips, suggestions, or tricks for you as well. With that, you could then also chuck in there any unique queries or questions that you have. So we'll flick through some details on that post this webinar, and then if you're interested, feel free to reach out to us and we can look to help and connect with you on that one as well. All right, so that pretty much wraps up our webinar for today. So if you've got any further questions, feel free to chuck them on the Q&A, or alternatively reach out to our office and someone from our office can assist you with your queries going forward. Thanks very much.